this video, we're going to go over hydrates. So we're going to go over what they are, as well as their naming and chemical formulas and molar masses. So let's start out with what a hydrate is. A hydrate is really simply an ionic compound that is crystallized, and as it crystallizes, it incorporates water into its crystal structure by one of two ways. So coordinate covalent bonds or hydrogen bonding. Okay, or hydrogen bonding. In the image shown here, here's a hydrate of copper 2 sulfate. It kind of looks bluish. And when you take a hydrate and you heat it up, so you provide some energy, we create the anhydrous version. So this is the version without water incorporated into the crystal structure. But thereby releasing some water here in terms of this particular chemical equation. And we can actually go back and forth between the hydrated and the anhydrous version. So if we add water back into the anhydrous version, it will release energy then and go back to the hydrated version. So it's kind of cool. You can go back and forth. For copper 2 sulfate, the anhydrous version is kind of white kind of color, and then the hydrated version is blue. Now, when you add water and incorporate water into the crystal structure, it does impact the molar mass of the ionic compounds. We do have to account for the water when we calculate a molar mass, and it also changes the name and chemical formula slightly. So we'll talk about those in a moment. If you're wondering about the color difference, kind of beyond the scope of this video, we'll talk about it in a separate video. Okay, so how do we name a hydrate? And how do we know we have a hydrated compound? The naming is pretty similar to ionic compounds, but it's going to also include at the end the word hydrate, as well as a prefix for that hydrate. That's going to tell us how many water molecules we have associated. So here is a hydrate here, CuSO4.5H2O. So how do we name this? Well, let's start with the copper 2 sulfate part. So that is our copper 2 sulfate. And then hydrates always have this dot between the water and the ionic compound. The dot tells us that the water is associated with the ionic compound, but it's not part of the ionic compound. It's just there through either the coordinate covalent bonds or hydrogen bonding. So the dot's important to include. And then the last part of the name, we have 5 waters. So 5 is penta. So we just use a prefix for the number. And then the water we represent as hydrate. So this becomes copper 2 sulfate pentahydrate. If we were doing the molar mass of this compound, we'd take the molar mass of our copper 2 sulfate, okay, and we'd have to add 5 times the molar mass of water to get our molar mass for our hydrate. So it's going to add 5 times 18.02 grams per mole to this molar mass. And so it's really important to be able to do this and be able to recognize we have a hydrate, because we do then tend to have to weigh out more of that ionic compound because we got lots of waters associated. And so that is just a really brief overview of what a hydrate is, as well as how to name them, come up with a chemical formula, as well as their molar mass. That's it for this video. We'll see you in the next one.